Good afternoon, precious friends. Today we are going to be doing a really old school dish that a lot of people haven't experienced just because it's kind of old fashioned, but it is really delicious and it only requires a tweak or two to make it carnivore. And once you taste it, well, once you see it, I think it'll pique your interest. And once you taste it, I'm sure it'll become a standard part of your repertoire because it is delicious. And that recipe is chicken Kiev. As I said, it's really old fashioned. It kind of went out of favor in the 60s and 70s. But before then, it was a staple of French cuisine. A lot of people think it's Russian because of the name. But no, it was invented by a French chef who was cooking for a Russian diplomat in the late 19th century, so named it Chicken Kiev after the diplomat. It has nothing to do with the city of Kiev. It was just an affectation, which happened a lot back then. But anyway, let's get right into it because this one is going to be really fun and interesting. So the first things we're going to do, precious friends, is we are going to make our compound butter. And I got here 4 tablespoons of butter at room temperature. And I have a piece of shallot. And I have a teaspoon of lemon juice mixed with about 1/4 teaspoon of the lemon rind. If you just have bottled lemon juice and you don't want to bother with the grated lemon rind, don't worry about it. It'll still be delicious. I just really happen to like citrus rind. And I did this citrus rind on my microplane grater. Handy dandy. And also we have a sprig of tarragon. You don't have to have tarragon. However, I don't like that piece. However, tarragon is traditional. If you don't have tarragon, technically it's really not chicken Kiev. But if you can't find it or you don't care for it, it has a very pronounced fennel-like or licoricey taste. If you don't like it, just leave it out because it's your food and you can eat what you want. And we're also going to have some parsley, Italian parsley. Please, Italian parsley tastes way better than curly parsley. So what we're going to do first is we're going to mince up about a tablespoon of parsley for our compound butter. There we go. And our tablespoon of parsley goes in the bowl. That might have been a tiny bit less than a tablespoon, but these measures don't have to be particularly accurate. If you like more parsley, put it in. If you like less parsley, put in less. And this is our tarragon, and I'm just going to pull the leaves off the stems. So the way you deal with things like this, you deal with thyme or rosemary the same way. You just take the frond like this and you hold it by the top of the stem, not too high to the top because it'll just break off, but about 1/3 of the way down. And just take your hand and pull backwards on it like that. And then go back to the top part and pinch off the tender part that you were grabbing onto. Now, this is going to be, again, about a tablespoon of fresh tarragon. You can do it with dried tarragon. It's really not the same. If you do it with dried tarragon, reconstitute your tablespoon of dried tarragon in about 2 teaspoons of boiling water and let it sit for about 5 minutes. And you'll get something much more similar to fresh tarragon, but it really isn't the same thing. Okay, there we go. So tarragon and parsley are the traditional seasonings. And whether or not you use the lemon juice or the shallot has entirely to do with taste. But they are all more or less traditional. So here's our lemon juice and lemon zest or lemon rind. And here we have our shallot. And for this application, you could just mince the shallot, but I like it finer than that. I don't care for the little chunks of shallot in this application. You can use green onion, you can use regular onion, but I like to use the shallot, or you can even use a little bit of garlic, but I like to grate it on my microplane grater just to get it very fine. And one way that you can do it is, if you want to see how much you're doing, is you hold the microplane grater upside down and then grate it like that. And that way you can see exactly how much you've got there. And that's about a teaspoon. See? It's a little hard to see. The light in here is not so great today. Sorry about that. Actually, that's probably about a half a teaspoon. I'm going to put a little bit more in. There we go. Oh, that's strong. It's getting in my eyes. And now we are just going to mash this all up. This butter has to be room temperature, friends, or else this mixing will not go well. If the butter's too cold, the lemon juice simply will not incorporate. It's better to have it a little over soft than not soft enough. But at the same time, you need it to be cold enough that it will form a paste like this. If it's too liquid and it's just melted, I mean, you can mix it all together, but then you'll have to just refrigerate it before you can form the little thing that we're about to make. We're going to make a log out of this because we have to portion it. So we're going to take a piece of plastic wrap. Armed with our trusty silicone scraper, I always have one at hand. And we're just going to scrape this out of the bowl. This is salted butter, by the way, so I haven't added any salt. But if you like salt, you can certainly add some more. But I think it's going to be sufficiently salty without salt. So how do you make this into a log? You fold it over this way, and then make sure you have a little bit of overlap. You can see that little overlap there. And there's a couple of ways you can do it. You can hold the edge with your fingers like this and push in with the side of your hand, or you can use the side of the scraper, or you can use the dull side of your knife. The sharp edge, dull edge. Okay? Then once you get it like that, you just finish rolling it up, and then you just twist the ends. One way you can do it is just put it on the board and just roll it like this. This board is just slippery. Anyway, just roll it and just keep rolling it and twisting it. And, you know, it'll even itself out into the most adorable little sausage. Just like that, see? And then once you have it like that, you just bring the ends over, tie it into a little knot like that, and it will stay. And this, friends, is going to go in the refrigerator until it firms up. Okay, here we go. Okay, friends, the next thing we have is our chicken. And if you watched my video about mincing meat without a meat grinder, you probably recognize these individuals as the chicken breasts that I just cut the tails off. They just had regular chicken breast tails. They were regular chicken breast shapes, but we didn't need the whole breasts for our chicken Kiev. So, and we do need a little bit of the ground meat just to make things simpler. Chicken Kiev is traditionally done with a pounded flat chicken breast, and then the compound butter is put in the middle, and it's all folded over and fastened with toothpicks, and it leaks. It's difficult to get right. So what I decided to do is figure out a different way to do this that's a little bit more reliable and a little easier. So what we're going to do is we're not going to bother pounding anything because I like to avoid doing that if I can. So what we're going to do is this one's going to be a little longer than this one, but that's okay. So we're going to cut it right like this. They will be roughly the same weight because this one's is going to be thicker than this one. This one's thicker and this one's longer, but anyway, they're going to be roughly the same. Okay, now, so we got our 4 portions, and we are going to cut a pocket in each one, and I'm going to show you a couple of different ways to do it. Okay, here's one, and in the long cut side, you can do this with just a regular paring knife, and I'll show you how to do it. Keep in mind which is the sharp side. So you just put it in on one end with the unsharp side towards the end. See? The edge of the blade is going this way, okay? If you put it in this way by accident, the likelihood is you're just going to split the chicken breast. So make sure you got it pointed the right way. We don't need that. So we're going to put it in. Make sure you don't stick it in too close to the edge. We're going to stick it in. And we're going to feel the back end here to make sure it doesn't go all the way through. And we're just going to cut. And we're going to feel through the meat of the chicken breast and make sure that we're not piercing through anywhere until we have our pocket. See that? Okay. The other way I'm going to show you is I have one of these little tiny, and this is a garde-manger knife. This is a knife that people use for decorative cutting of vegetables. And I find them very, very convenient. And they're really good for cutting pockets and things. And again, pay attention to how you're orienting the blade. And just, again, put it in. And because it's so small and thin, it's really easy to avoid piercing inappropriately. So there we go. Easy as pie right there. Oh, this one can open it up a little bit more. And if you do need to open it up a little bit more, what you can do is you can open it all the way up to the bottom and then just lightly score there at the bottom. And you can open it up very carefully and make sure you don't pierce it. Okay, got that? There we go. And the other thing that you can do, friends, is if you want to, is you can just use kitchen shears like this. Now again, these chicken breasts have been in the freezer, so they're very, very firm. So you take the scissors, poke down in, use your fingers to feel where the scissors are going. Poke down in and snip. Once again, poke down in and snip. And once again, poke down in and snip. And you just do that as many times as you need to make your pocket. And then you open it up a little bit to make sure it's even. And there you go. Easy peasy pockets. So we have our 4 portions. Actually, this is actually probably just 2 portions because I can eat 2 of these with no problem. Okay, now the next step is our compound butter. Okay, friends, here we have our chilled butter. Nice and firm. We're going to unwrap it and we're going to cut it into 4 portions. I'm just going to eyeball it, but you can measure it or weigh it or divide it however you find efficacious. Okay, and it might be a little crumbly because, you know, there's a lot of stuff mixed in here. So sometimes it doesn't behave exactly like cold butter would. But there we have 4 portions. And we have our meat with the pockets cut. I'm going to enlarge this just a little bit. There we go. There we go. Now, the next thing we need is this is the ground chicken that we made earlier, or the minced chicken. And you'll see what we're going to do with this. So the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to cut these butter bombs, so to speak, into a couple of pieces. And we're going to tuck them inside. Oh, this one I didn't split. Ha ha. That's funny. I just completely left that one out. Oh well, mistakes happen in the kitchen, friends. And what makes you a great cook is not necessarily knowing exactly what to do, but what makes you a great cook is knowing what to do when there's a boo-boo. So I'm going to tuck this right in here like this. Okay. Okay, now, in ordinary chicken Kiev, it would be a pounded out flat chicken breast, and you'd encapsulate all the butter and pin it closed with a toothpick or something. And that's just, and you know what? They leak. So, what I figured out is I'm just going to take some ground chicken meat, and this is about a tablespoonful. And I'm just going to stick it in there like that. Just kind of ram it all on in there and mash it down. Okay? So, open it up a little bit. See it in there? So what's going to happen is when this cooks, the collagens and the proteins are going to stick together, and that's going to glue our little pocket together. Okay, so let's do that again. Take our little chicken ball, just kind of roll it into a rope, stick it right in there like that, and just pinch that right closed, just like that. Yay. All right, now we're going to put these back on our little transporter. This is just a little thin plastic sheet cutting board. I like them because it's very easy to transport food. And we're going to set these in the refrigerator. We want them to stay nice and cold because we want that butter to stay hard until we're ready to cook. Okay, friends, once we got our chicken breasts filled, I put them on a plate and wrapped them in plastic and set them in the refrigerator for a couple of hours because you really do want this to stay cold until you're ready to coat them and fry them up. And yes, we are going to deep fry them. I love fried food. Don't you? I mean, everybody does. But you have to do it right, don't you? So let's get right back to it. So here we have our standard egg wash, and that's going to be 1 egg and 2 tablespoons of water beaten up real well. And we have our breading, which is, of course, going to be pork panko or crushed pork rinds. Okay, this is a cup. And traditionally with carnivores, it's just a dip in the egg white. In the egg wash and then a dip in the panko. But I find I have a problem with the pork rinds coming off in like a sheet or sticking very well or getting a very decent coating on it. So there is also a tradition or a procedure wherein a substrate is used to create sort of a something for the egg wash to cling to. And traditionally that's flour, wheat flour. And right here, and I just want to show you something. You know, don't get upset. Now, of course, if you're gluten intolerant, this isn't going to work for you, but I want to show you something. Okay, I'm gonna measure this. This is 2 tablespoons of regular old wheat flour. As I said, if you have specific issues with wheat flour, you, by all means, you take care of yourself. But we have the scale tared out here, and I'm going to show you something with regard to this flour. Okay, we got our lovely little chicken thing here, and this is 2 tablespoons of flour. We're going to weigh this. This is 179.4 grams. Okay? Just keep that in mind. And I'm going to, I'm going to put flour on this. And I know, screech, clutch your pearls, do whatever you need to do. But I'm going to show you something. Remember that was 179.4? We're going to coat this in flour. We're going to knock every little last bit of it off that we can. I want to show you the reality of this. What it actually adds to your carnivore diet. Like I said, if you are gluten sensitive, of course you don't want to do this. But I'm going to show you something else too. Watch this. 174.9, right? $180.5. We went from 179.4 to 180.5. This is 1.1 grams of wheat flour. Okay, that 1 gram of wheat flour is going to improve the overall quality of our product to such an extent that I personally consider it worth it. However, as I said, if you for some reason just can't do any wheat, don't do it. But you could use cornstarch, organic cornstarch, or rice flour, or anything. We're talking about a gram or so, right? But if you really need it to be carnivore, here's something else you can do. This, friends, is milk powder, and it will do the same thing, mostly. It's not exactly the same, but I'm going to show you how it works. You just dust it. Now this is going to help your coating to adhere. It's going to adhere so much better. The coating is going to be much more stable. It's going to be more even, and it's going to result in a better product. So that's milk powder. This will brown faster. So if you do it this way, you're going to have to cook it in a little bit lower heat. Okay, and then the last one we're going to do is, oh no, excuse me. This was not the milk powder. This was the egg white powder. This was the egg white powder, friends. Sorry about that. I made a boo-boo. That's the egg white powder. This is the milk powder, non-fat milk powder. And this is the one that will brown a lot more quickly. It also puts on a bit of a thicker coating. But what this does is this gives a texture to the outside of the chicken. I'm going to do this other one back in my wheat flour. It gives a texture to the outside of the chicken that allows the egg wash to stick in sufficient quantity so that it allows the pork rind to actually stick in sufficient quantities. Okay, that's done. So you do you, precious friends, and we're going to get right back into breading. Once I wash these breaded hands. And now we're ready to continue. I almost forgot, friends, the egg white one had a pinch of xanthan gum just to help. Because otherwise it's just putting egg on egg. But, so now we have our rig set up. We want to go in one direction, so we're going to start with our chicken over here. You can just see it off at the edge of the shot. We're going to see that we got the egg wash here and the crumbs here, so we're going to go directly from the plate to the egg to the crumbs and into the fat. And we have over here our skillet with about an inch of actually, it's a mix of beef tallow and pork fat. But you can use any kind of cooking fat you want to. Duck fat or chicken fat would be marvelous for this. But any kind of cooking fat you want to. Whoops. Excuse me. I got cords in the way. There we go. So we are going to turn this over here just a little bit, and we're going to start with our floured. You can when you pick it up, you'll notice it's a little bit sticky, and we're going to roll it in the egg wash, and the egg wash clings much better when it's kind of texturized like that. Roll it in the egg. Before we drop it in the fat, we're going to make sure our fat is hot. And an excellent way to see if your fat is hot, friends, is to take, woo, I got a drip of water in there. Contraindicated, don't do that. Dry your hands. But a good way to tell if your fat is hot, if you don't have a thermometer handy, this says, I happen to know how hot this is because my my induction plate here has tells me how hot it's going to heat it up to. My induction plate says it's going to heat it up to 360 degrees. But if you're looking for a way to figure out if your oil is hot, you can take a wooden chopstick or the end of a wooden spoon. Make sure it doesn't have any varnish or paint on it, just a regular old bamboo plain chopstick, and stick it in there. And I don't know if you can see it. The end of the bamboo stick, you can see it frying away in there. That means that your oil is hot. And so we are going to finish coating. We're just going to lift the crumbs and press them in. And then we're going to very carefully just roll it back and forth between our fingers and pat it and get the excess crumbs off. Okay, look at that. That's a lovely, oh, that's going to be so crispy and delicious. And we're going to lower that right into our fat. The fat should come about halfway up the sides of the item you're frying for a shallow fat fry. And we're going to go on to the next one. Now we're going to do the milk powder one. I just made a boo-boo, friends. And that is I put both of my hands in the egg wash. What you want to do is you want to have one wet hand and one dry hand. Because otherwise, you just bread your fingers instead of breading your food. So I'm going to wipe one hand, this hand dry. Now make sure that you have your container of pork rind crumbs handy, so in case you need some more. I always start with only a cup because I don't like to start with too much and then end up messing up my pork crumbs and then not having anything to use them for, because then you have to throw them away. Pork rind crumbs are expensive, you may have noticed. Okay, so we're going to scooch this one out of the way and put down our next one. And we're going to turn this down a little bit because it's frying away. And this time I'm going to do it right. So we're going to do the egg white one, friends. Egg white with a pinch of xanthan gum. And it's gotten really slimy from the xanthan gum. So, but it still works great. And it is 100% carnivore. And we're going to put that in there. One wet hand, friends, and one dry hand when you're breading. Now, if you've found in using pork rind crumbs that you don't need the first coating or the first substrate to get the eggs to stick, well, good for you, but I've always found it to be a problem. So I'm going to leave that in there, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to turn this one over. Put it to where you can see it. See how lovely and crispy it's gotten? There's some solids in my fat, I think, but that's okay. It's going to taste good. And here goes number 3. I think I have just enough pork rinds. And here we go. Here is our last piece. Well, that was a good guess. I could have used a little bit more, but I think we're going to make do. Now we're going to turn the second one over. Oh, that was even prettier. Look at that. Can you see that? Num num nummies. So we don't have to look at our breading station anymore. So we're going to put this over here and we're just going to look at our lovely and here we go. Here we go. When you're putting food into a hot pan, friends, set it down and let it fall away from you. Never set it down and let it fall towards you. That's just not safe for obvious reasons. If the oil, the hot fat is going to splash, you want it to splash going that direction, not coming this direction. Okay? Set it down and let it fall away from you. Or let it lie down away from you. Okay, this is going to cook a little bit more. I think I'm going to turn this. Nope, don't need to. Looks good. I don't think we have any leakage, friends. Dry your hands well after washing when you are working with hot fat, please. Don't do what I did a minute ago and let a drop of water get in there, because that's not fun. Now, while that's happening, I'm going to prepare a place to drain my fried food. And what we're going to do is a couple of layers of paper towel on this plate, and we're just going to put a rack over the top, just like this. A couple of paper towels over a plate. Here, let me move this. A couple of paper towels on a plate and a rack over the top. This way, the crispy, as all the work that we've done to make this crispy coating, if it sits directly on the paper towels, it's going to get soggy on the bottom where it's touching. And we went through all of this work to build this beautiful crispy crust. Why in the world would we want it to let it get soggy? So we're cooking this relatively slowly, friends, because we need it to cook all the way through. We certainly don't want it raw in the middle. And we need to cook it slowly so the outside won't get too brown before the inside is done. So we're just going to let it sit there and cook and get happy. And here we have it, precious friends. Chicken Kiev. Now, please don't poke this with a fork or anything, because you don't want to let the beautiful butter sauce out until it's ready to eat. So we have to sit, we have to let this sit and cool for about 5 minutes. And the carryover cooking will make sure that it's cooked all the way through. And then after that, we're going to cut one open and we're going to taste it, and it's going to be fabulous. Okay, precious friends, it's time. Here is our luscious butter-filled chicken breast, and just because, partly because I just like parsley. I mean, I enjoy the flavor of it. I like to eat it as a seasoning. But just because it's traditional. And it really doesn't need anything more than that, friends. If you wanted to, you can make a little bit extra of the compound butter and put a little, you know, a little ball or a little scoop of the compound butter next to it on the plate. You could put a lemon wedge. You could, you know, if you want to make it a little bit more fancy, but I don't think, whoops, stay put. I don't think you really need anything more than that, friends. I think that's impressive. So now we're going to cut it open. Here we go. Oh, there it goes, friends. Can you see it? Whoops. There's the herbs inside. And the butter has come out. Probably could have put a little more butter in there, but anyway. Doesn't that look yummy? I don't know if you can see the pool of butter. But oh, the tarragon smells so fragrant and delicious. And the lemon juice and the parsley, and I can see the little flecks of lemon rind that I put in here. Here's the bite. Okay, here we go, friends. Mmm. The chicken is moist and juicy, and I can taste the butter and the tarragon and the parsley and the lemon. The lemon is subtle, but it's definitely there. Mm. The crispy coating and the richness of the fried taste, along with the herbaceousness of the tarragon and the parsley, and just a little tiny tang of the lemon. It's just so well rounded and so balanced. I really hope that you'll try this, friends. This is just really delicious. Mm. So, I don't want to stop eating it. Anyway, there you have it, friends. I know this is a long one, and I hope you stayed with me to the end, and I hope that you find this as rewarding as I have. It is going to be wonderful for you to try it. Please do let me know in the comments if you decide to try it and how it comes out if you do, and have questions, post them in the bottom. And that's it for now, friends. I'll probably not be posting for about a week because my hubs and I are going on vacation. I'm going to try to you know, keep you in the loop. But unfortunately, traveling can be so up in the air. Unexpected things can happen. I will try and check in with you all, but I don't know. So anyway, just if you don't hear from me for about a week, that's what I'm doing. Anyway, join me over on Facebook. I wish you peace, love, and meat. And I will see you again soon with another wonderful recipe. See you later.